Michelle Pope.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the virtual neighborhood of Life is a Sacred Journey. I am Michelle Pope, your host of Life is a Sacred Journey, and it's great, great, great to be with you this morning. We are going to have a wonderful guest who has written a book called The Bridge Tender. Her name is teZa Lord. She is a woman that really I've just started to look up yesterday and the day before, where she is really taking the idea that if we change the way we think, like Carolyn Brent calls it stinking thinking, that if we take our thinking to a higher vibration, and people get frightened by that word sometimes, but that we do, that we manifest what we think and how we look at things. And if we have a negative attitude, or what I call an Eeyore attitude about anything, then that's what's going to happen. You're going to have an Eeyore kind of existence, and everything is going to look like it's against you when, that's clearly not true. So I'm going to bring teZa Lord in as I introduce her to you. So she'll be joining us live here soon on Life is a Sacred Journey. If this is your first time, we try to bring ideas and thoughts around mindfulness, as well as we have a platform where we talk a lot about caregiving, aging, and try to give tips, if not ideas or encouragement, to caregivers that are out there trying to do this caregiving journey. And a lot of it comes to self-help. And so this morning, teZa Lord is one of those kinds of individuals that we are excited to bring to Life is a Sacred Journey, because teZa is looking at life from that place where, what we think, and how we feel and how we transform ourselves is so important. It is a journey. It's a quest. Remember, I love that word, quest. And so she describes herself as a spiritual advocate, which I love. I love the combination of those two words, because advocacy means being in movement, being upfront for those that maybe are not in the same place that you are. So it is my honor. Good morning, teZa Lord, and to welcome teZa Lord to Life is a Sacred Journey. So join me in welcoming her to our platform this morning. Good morning, teZa.
There we go. Yay! You're in. Good morning. Well, afternoon, wherever we are. Great to see you, Michael.
Good to see you. It's really beautiful morning, and it's a beautiful day to start the day this way, sharing it with you. I was just listening to one of your other conversations with
Right.
someone else, and I could feel your energy of what my friend last week talked about, was that glow, that inner glow that happens when you're connected to not just what's happening on this plane, in this world, but that you open yourself up to a connection that's bigger than yourself, and you open yourself up to joy. I think we have killed joy in people, and it just breaks my heart when people say things to me like, well, what's so good about it? It's like, well,
Right. Well, we can tell people what's so good about it if they'll listen. But will people listen? Well, yeah, I had to learn to listen. I bet you did too.
yes.
That's the
So
ego.
please tell us a little bit about your journey. And I was listening to your conversation that you had spoke about your book, The Bridge Tender, and I'm really interested in hearing more about that as well. And I want to make sure I get a copy so I can read it. But um, tell us a little bit how you got on this journey, and why this has been so life-giving, because that's what I feel like it has been for you, life-giving to you as well as for others, because you are sharing your journey with others.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of courage to share your journey, You know, I have the analogy of when you're a public person, whether you're a speaker or an influencer, but I'm just an artist and an author and an activist advocate of love and spirit. It's really like letting people see your underwear drawer because there's this deep, deep, deep thing going on, and we reveal it, those of us who are brave enough, because the world needs it. Now, if it was just like 100 years ago, we would just be doing something else. But the world is right now where it is, and we are at a crossroads. We either have to spiritualize humanity or the other stuff, which we don't really need to go into because so many people do.
Right.
And I'm not a fear-based person, I'm a love-based person. I believe that love can heal anything. So my story basically is I came from a very dysfunctional family, like who doesn't, right?
That's right. That's right.
Even if you have the most perfect parents, in retrospect, it seems dysfunctional. That's just what the childhood experience is.
Mhm.
My husband of 32 years had, in my estimation, the most wonderful parents, but no, that's not the way any of the siblings feel. And my parents, they did their best, and they did their best, but there was alcoholism, there was abuse, I started running away when I knew I had legs. I
Wow.
just started running away because, they say in the spiritual world that we choose our family. Well,
Mhm.
I kept all my adult life, I'm thinking, okay, now why did I choose this family? Let's get clear here. Well, for me, it's because adversity breeds innovation. And
Mhm.
it's either going to kill you or it's going to force you to become creative. And so I had that choice, and I started, like I said, running away, like physically when I was just a little kid, but then mentally and not spiritually. Spiritually, I was always a seeker. Even as a kid, I think I had deja vu. I mean, I believe in reincarnation. I
Mhm.
believe in the evolution of our soul. And when I came into this world, I just said, "Ah, I know that, I know that person. I've been here before. I've met that." And things rang like true to me. So I kept following the inner bell.
Mhm.
And what was true to me was things like not to pursue my original, like kind of forced career, which was to be a lawyer. The parents thought, oh no, you have to have a legitimate career, a professional one with lots of diplomas and, a sign up in your office. But I
Yes, I do know.
yeah, I had the creative bug. I was drawing bugs, I was drawing birds, I was just drawing, drawing, drawing. I loved seeing that I could create something really magnificent with my own ability. And whether it was mud pies or
My favorite, by the way.
yeah, they're yummy, aren't they? I mean, I ate a lot of mud pies. Yeah, I don't know why earth, it tastes good when you're a kid. So instead of going to fulfilling my parents' wish of being a lawyer, I got myself expelled because I also was into addiction early on. I just had to leave. And the leaving wasn't just with the legs, it was with bad substances, bad choices, bad people. And my journey is one of recovery. I'm 40 years this year without any substances. I know. And I came into recovery at the age of 36. But before that, I was a hell child. I call myself a she pirate.
I-
I actually did go to the Caribbean. I
okay.
left the States and I roamed the Caribbean, and I was there for a decade. I lived in third world countries. I really wanted to be with people who thought that the important things were, how's their chickens doing? How
Yeah.
about that goat? It needs a little water, you
Yeah.
know? How's the weather doing? And nobody where I lived, I mainly call home Dominica, which is between Guadeloupe and Martinique. Yeah, and Grenada, I spent a lot of time, but I was sailing everywhere and having an inter-island shipping business. I just really wanted to taste a non-material way of living.
Mm.
And in those days prior to 9/11, it was so easy to hitchhike between the islands. You could just hop on a plane, you could hop on a local boat, you could easily get a cruise berth on anybody's sailboat. So
Mm,
I explored, and the wind and the water, those were my teachers.
thank
Nature is my teacher. So I followed nature until the hurricanes came.
you. Yes.
The first one's named after men, mind you. Up to that point in 1979, they were all named after women. Along comes David and Frederick, lambasted this little tiny island I was in, which was the supplier of all the fruits and vegetables, and everything was uprooted, blown away.
Yeah.
No insurance. I never was into insurance because I was a wild child.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, my adventures meanwhile, I'm always painting, I'm always sculpting, I'm always creating, cooking. For instance, I had a restaurant in St. Thomas, Virgin Islands.
Wow.
And the creative bug was so big in me that I didn't want to mar it by commercializing it. So I always had a job.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I was broke, I would set up shop in a hotel and draw tourists, you know. I got paid extra bucks for removing jowls.
Amen.
Can you just take a few jowls off?
Yes.
So, and I always traveled with jewelry supplies, believe it or not. I mean, all you need when you're living that lifestyle is a bikini, one nice dress, and some supplies so you can either paint or draw or make some quickie things and sell them to people. Some
Mhm.
people would crochet. They would actually
Oh, yes, yes.
crochet bikinis, like, for instance. So the travel bug. Also during that time, I was, a flower child. This was like the late 60s. Vietnam was raging, and everybody was saying, love it or leave it. And I was getting angrier and angrier about the politics. So I left. And I tell anybody today, if you don't like what's going on, go somewhere else and live and see what it's like to live outside of America, because it's not fun out there.
Yeah.
People think it's so sublime, it's so idyllic, to live in paradise, but there's always a dictator roaming around the corner, and I mean a real dictator. And
Mhm.
my adventures did end with being thrown into prison,
Okay.
and I was totally innocent that time.
I hear that, teZa.
Yeah, but everything catches up with you.
Yeah,
Every
yeah,
single
yeah.
action we do. Yeah. So my story has always been one of adventure. And when I discovered, through sobriety, that it was me choosing to have confusion, me saying I had to numb myself out with however I was doing it. And I realized that it's a choice thing to be in that negative headspace. That's when my spiritual life began in earnest.
Wow. And that I think I've been really in my heart drawn to that very vibration where there, because it's the journey is different, my journey is different, but similar in so many ways, in that there was this moment or this shift in me that said, no, I can't, or I don't even want to continue this way. I need to
Mhm.
be I need to be going in this trajectory, and everything else be damned, because that's where I'm going. And things fell off, and that's what I realized. There were people who I was around that they didn't make me do anything, but at the end of the day, when I made that shift, they also disappeared.
Right.
I never hurt them. I never said anything. They just disappeared on their own. And things started to come at me in ways where I was overjoyed, but I also was very confused, because I kept thinking, why am I feeling this? Why do I get to feel what's happening with these other people that I don't even know, way across the world? Or I can feel this pain, or I can feel the joy too. I can feel that shift.
Hmm.
And it doesn't necessarily mean it's happening to me. It means it's happening somewhere out there. And so, but a lot of people are afraid of that, teZa. They
Yes.
don't want to feel that. They don't want to understand that. They want to run from it, not understanding that's a necessary transformation for spiritual growth and healing. I went, oh my gosh, I was thriving on neglect. Oh, look at me. I got this. Oh, look at me. I'm thriving. But inside, I was turning into this ick.
Yeah, there's a very famous yogic sutra that explains that. And it comes from ancient scriptures, like the most ancient on the earth, called the Vedas. And it basically translates to those who choose this life, the deep, profound spiritual life, are treading on the razor's edge, which
Mhm.
means you have to be really courageous. Because if you have too much empathy, for instance, for people who are really suffering and being oppressed and don't realize that it is all part of this plan that we don't have anything to do with. We're just puppets
Mhm.
along the cosmic unfolding of this divine consciousness. But if we have too much empathy, we will crash off the razor's edge and end up being heartbroken.
Yes.
So in the yogic world, which is my path, my tradition, we
Mhm.
talk about the balance, just like the Buddhists say, you go the middle way, you not too much this, not too much that, not too much joy, not too much sorrow, the middle way. But is the middle way is filled with bliss. The middle way is absolutely, it's just profoundly infinite in the amount of experiences available. It just keeps expanding.
Yes.
But I
Yes.
think a lot of people are afraid and don't have mentors. Because
Yeah.
for me, I needed a mentor.
Mhm.
And yes, of course, nature was my guide at first, but nature can't say, okay, teZa, you're a human being, and this is how you're going to experience the highest that you can, which was always my dream. I wanted to fly, just like I
I
did.
saw that. I saw.
Yeah, I wanted to fly. And but you can in your mind, of course. And being an artist, you can do that also, just imagining what it's like to fly.
Mhm.
So mentorship is important. So whether it's good friends or actually finding a teacher that resonates with you and going to seek whatever that teacher has, and then maybe going to find another teacher until finally we all become the ones who are helping others,
Yeah.
because that's the way the spiritual life is. We don't just grab it for ourselves and say, oh boy, I got it, I'm so happy now. But once we get that taste, we want to offer it to other people, and especially to eliminate suffering as much as we can by sharing the joy of
Mhm.
that balanced life, that equilibrium it's called.
Yeah. And when you come out into the world, that's how I see what you're saying too, is that when if I come out into the world every day, from my oasis of joy, that and I bring that in my walk, in my spirit, like this morning when my I waved to my neighbor down the street, and it was still dark outside, and I didn't want to be too loud because some people probably are sleeping, but I said, "Have a good day." And he said, "Have a good day."
Oh, that's
And
nice.
and it's like, we could have not done that, and we'll still be neighbors tomorrow because he lives in his space,
Mhm.
I live in mine. But at the end of the day, that moment, that moment of humanity, when I got in the car, I was just like feeling better. I mean,
Yeah.
okay, but I felt better because of that connection, that moment with somebody else, which is a part of the reason that we're here, is to connect with each other. And like you say, to mentor. Is that what that is? I was going to ask you.
That's what this painting is all about. I painted that quite a few years ago. I was just looking at it this morning. On the back of it, I named it Golden Pods,
Wow.
and it was, instead of golden rod,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
golden pods. They're golden, the golden connection of like the higher sense of being a human, not the drudge, not the hardships, not the fear. We don't, we can have empathy about that, but we do not want to be dragged down into that level of
Yeah,
consciousness.
yeah.
once we're working with consciousness, we have a choice. We can stay in the higher realms. And so this embodies the fact that we are all connected. That's a big theme in my work and my understanding,
Love.
that we are all one through consciousness.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's
Absolutely.
why when you meet somebody, and I have a tendency on life is a sacred journey to, and I mean, it's our theme, it's, who,
Yeah.
so I have a tendency to meet people where I'm like, okay, wow, this is like my new best friend. I feel them. They resonate with me. And it's because it's the journey may not be the same, but we understand the grief and the pain of it, but we also understand this tremendous peace and joy that comes when you can flip it. As I always say to people, flip that. I know stuff hurts, but
Yeah.
we
And
can flip it.
it's very important for us to make that known to people too, because people who wallow in the misery, they're choosing to do that. They have some connection with it. It's their payoff. They get a lot of sympathy. Oh, poor them, or them own selves. It gives them another excuse to have another piece of chocolate cake,
Mhm.
or whatever. So the choice of either realizing that this journey that we're on is a sacred journey, and you really feel that when you are either in the presence of a newborn baby or you're in the presence of someone who's leaving their body.
Yep.
Those two frameworks of coming and going from this life is one.
It
It is
really is.
so strong. It's supernatural.
Yes. Yes.
It's absolutely, mind-blowing, and I was present for both of my parents leaving, and
Mm,
what an honor to help them, guide them, comfort them, because they gave me life. Even though it was difficult, they were the ones I chose to come through to become who I am today, this minute.
mhm, mhm. Oh, I'm gonna tell you why what you said just resonates because I have an 8-month-old granddaughter, my first and only at the moment, and
Congratulations,
I
it's
I
great.
love her. She is amazing, and I call it Thursday with Nora. I take Thursdays off so that I can spend time
Mhm,
with her, and you're exactly right. Like yesterday, she did something. Oh, she was eating a carrots, and so she put her spoon down and she put her hand in that bowl, and she just was like playing with it and crushing it through her fingers. And for me, carrots have become a source of food, right? Where it's like,
mhm,
okay, I'm eating carrots. Yeah, good,
mhm.
whatever. And I thought to myself, if we could just enjoy and let go, because she can use a spoon. She's learned to do that. But that's not what she wanted to do in that moment. She wanted to feel the textures of her food and wipe it all over the table. And I
Yeah.
was just like, this is so cool. And it really yesterday she taught me that it's okay to abandon some of the things that we have been taught, my dear beloved friends, because it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. No, being correct and diving into whatever it is that we're becoming aware of, we're actually becoming one with when we're tasting or feeling or
Yes.
throwing, smearing it all over our body. And that's the awareness that makes this life the spiritual journey, the sacred journey, because it's our awareness. And if our awareness is closed, it's blocked.
Mhm.
Oh no, this is just hell here. Those people, I'm sorry, their hearts are blocked.
Yes,
And
yes.
and my heart was blocked. And when I felt it open, I was explaining it the other day. I'm like I said, I had addiction problems. So I was in a dark, dark hole. I was in a very dark place. But I loved yoga. I started off by being a teenager looking for relief from scoliosis. That's how I got into it.
Oh, okay.
Learned how to get into yoga through a book. There were no teachers available. That was in the 60s in Boston, believe it or not. No teachers. Now it's so great. It's on every
Right,
corner
it's everywhere,
everywhere. It's wonderful. This is the shift. This is the shift. Yoga is really, the the avant-garde of the shift in our consciousness, which is wonderful. And so eventually you get into having your awakenings by doing hatha yoga. Hatha means the physical.
Mhm.
And so then I started meditating, and then I wanted to know other disciplines, which was chanting. So chanting is like setting up a vibration with sound. And it's a
Yeah.
very big part of the yogic world of chanting, and you do it for a long time. And this vibration within me, one day early on in my discovery, it just it opened up my chest, which is called an energy center. It's a chakra. And
Yeah.
it was like a rusty gate. And when it opened up, it was almost like the hand of God just tore my chest apart and freed it from this prison of doubt and fear. Oh my God, I had such fear. And the light just came in, and
Mhm.
it never stopped just pouring in more and more and more explorations, more ways of discovering how the light permeates everything. And that's awareness.
Yes, that is awareness. And it's love. It is love of self, love of other, love, this abundant feeling. I know a lot of folks that are Christian, and I am a Christian,
I
that
love
but
Christ.
they
Yeah.
believe that they can't practice yoga, or they think la la la. And I'm here to tell you, I practice yoga because when I started, I think 9 years ago, having sciatic problems,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
the doctor wanted to give me all this stuff, and I was just like, I've become sort of prescription free, and I want to remain that way. So I thought, no, let me figure this out. What's going on? Well, teZa, you know what was going on. There was
Mm-hmm.
stress in my life. I was worried about a lot of things. I had fear of loss, fear of I was living through imposter syndrome.
Oh,
At that particular moment, let's be the best Black woman on the planet, because I don't want anybody to use who I am against my people. I mean, blah, 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 blah,
mhm.
blah,
Yeah.
all in my head. Okay. Some of it, yes, self-inflicted. Some of it's inflicted by the world. But regardless, I was eating it for breakfast, lunch, and
Mm-hmm. So I
yeah,
used to
it's
teach.
just so sad.
I taught girls, mostly gang girls. It was like, I would say 80% Black, the other Hispanic, and just a few white girls. They were juvenile delinquents. I'm going to whip out this book because it's so memorable. This book, it's called In the Eye.
Ooh,
And this is nonfiction. This is
okay.
about me teaching the techniques of calming your mind, strengthening your body, which we couldn't call yoga because the state of Florida wouldn't pay for the necessary guards that had to be there for the class. So they called it the empowerment class.
Okay.
And the reason I bring it up in context with Christianity is the fundamental evangelical people heard about this and came in and said, "You girls are all going to go to hell. This is black magic. This is occultism." And fortunately, the director of the facility, which was in Central Florida, girls were sent from everywhere, Miami and major cities, Tallahassee and Orlando and Jacksonville, and we had to do what she called damage control, because it's just ignorance when people say that yoga is wrong for any religion. And I am a Christian also. I'm a Christian born, and Christian will die. But I also believe that Christ was about love.
Mhm.
And if Christ was alive today, he would be doing yoga because
He
it makes you,
probably did do yoga.
yeah, they say he was in India
Did that
the lost years of his life. They, from, I don't know, they couldn't figure out where he
they
was
couldn't
from
figure maybe
teenager to 33 when he showed up all of a
right,
sudden
that's
doing
that's
miracles.
right.
I'm a big lover of Christ, and my husband is also a Christian, a big lover. I mean, he can quote anything from the Bible, but we do yoga together because yoga is not a religion.
Right.
Yoga is a modality of health that's very ancient. And if anybody thinks it's a religion, it's been explained to them incorrectly, and it has to be rectified because yoga is just a discipline.
Yes.
of going deeper in your own beliefs.
Yes. And the other is, my mom taught me this. Thank you, mother. Um, that there's a lot of things out there. The truth is out there, but it's not one in one place. It is, that's why we call this a quest, a journey.
Mhm.
You have to be willing to go to other places. When I was in Bali and I went to the holy temple, to the holy fountain spring, it was about me embracing not just my Christian faith and what I do and how I practice the rituals of my faith, but it was also to have a deeper sense of what does it mean when we transcend our own dogma to embrace all of it, all
Yeah.
of it that is divine and wonderful and uplifting and
Yeah.
embracing. What happens to you?
Well, my husband has a great way of explaining that. Like I said, he was brought up by very far out, what I call mystical Christians. And
Hmm.
so he started embracing this idea, but also the church was Episcopal church.
Hmm.
And he had perfect attendance when he was a child, and we go to church together and we do yoga things together. But his way of saying it is, he said, God is so big. How can people think it can be confined to
Exactly.
one way, one description? And to me, it's like whatever works for somebody, it's wonderful if that's the way that they reach the divine, the sacredness of life. But if Jesus were alive today, he would say, God is everywhere. God is in every grain of sand, in every cloud, in in even the stuff, we know that Lucifer was a fallen angel.
Right,
He was
right,
banished because he was insolent. And
right,
so he himself came from God, the
right.
creation. And I believe that God has put all these dramas and all these so-called adversities into our existence because he has chosen to do that for
Mhm,
whatever reason.
mhm.
I'm not a philosopher or a theologist, but I
Right.
feel I feel very strongly, like in areas of faith, for instance, I'm having trouble understanding the world leaders. Okay, why do we have such morons who are in charge of all these big decisions? And so I think, well, God created that too. God created even politics, which is a dangerous subject for me to even go near,
Me
because if
too.
anybody starts talking, I said, let's talk about spirit. Let's not talk about politics. But wouldn't it be great if one day we all become so enlightened, so it becomes so common. I call it going from Homo sapiens to Homo spiritus, where
Mm,
that's the way all humans are. We understand and we embrace that this
yeah,
is a sacred journey. Well,
yeah,
then possibly the people who are in charge, whether they're called politicians in those days or whatever, there always has to be a leader, because we're animals, we're pack animals. Somebody's got to be the leader.
right.
But one day, I believe we will have more enlightened people, and that's why it starts with the individual.
Yes.
All of us little molecules, we're becoming more and more true to our true humanity by embracing the spirit.
Hmm. And I realize again, being with Nora, it's about I think what happened when you use the word mentor, I think of my grandmother. I think of the community in which I grew up, where there were women. I saw women coming out of their home looking a certain way, how they embraced each other, how they spoke to each other, what was acceptable, what wasn't acceptable. But this courage, the word you use at least 4 or 5 times during this conversation, they had courage. And I felt that. I knew what that was all about. Well, nowadays, we have generations of individuals that haven't had that passing down of the baton. And why Thursdays with Nora, because I'm going to write a book about it eventually.
Yeah.
Thursdays with Nora is so important to me, and that I will not give it up, that I will not forsake it. for anything, because that's that moment where she gets to give to me and I get to give to her, and it's just she and I, and that will be in her DNA forever. And I had that, and I know what that means. It means a great deal to me that my grandmother was my pen pal when I was in college,
Hmm.
you know,
Wow.
because I was so lonely. I was so lonely, and felt so, I hated the world. I went to New Hampshire, and I was just like, oh my gosh, what world is this that I,
Oh, yeah.
you know, and growing through that really took breaking my own heart and then coming through. teZa, a good friend of mine that I haven't spoken to in a really long time, and this is making me feel her and want to reach out. Her name is Julie Interrante, and she wrote a book called The Open Broken Heart. And every year of my life since I've met her, I begin to understand, and you're opening me up to understanding what that means. That the heart can be broken at any given time in our existence. But when we open up, not only to that brokenness, but to the healing of it, and then that abundant thing that comes after, we get to
Mhm.
live into our full selves and begin to, and we actually introduce ourselves to ourselves at that time.
Yes, and the biggest lesson I get from Jesus, as long as we're talking about Christ,
Hmm.
is he expressed, at least the way I read it and interpret it, that the kingdom of God is within all of us. And that is our connection to God, to however one wants to define it. And that is the source of love, that is the source of healing. And even with broken hearts, there is a reason for why we had to experience those broken hearts. Not everybody does, but the people who learn that they can heal from their own self, from their self-love. It starts with self-love. I've known people where the broken heart just killed them. I mean, literally, I know this lady who had a heart attack because of the last election. Her heart was so broken and she had so much at stake that she just
Yeah,
keeled over because things were not going her way.
yeah,
And everything comes from within us, even though, of course, people who have religion have rituals and we have places of worship. But if we're on a desert island, which I lived on for many years, and on a sailboat way out in the middle of the ocean, it's still there. That
right.
temple, that holy place where God resides, is right within us, right in our heart. And all we have to do to experience that, we don't have to get all dressed up and, get our Sunday finery on and go to church. We just have to get quiet and learn to shut off the rackaroo, the stuff that doesn't matter. It's all that outside stuff, but the inside stuff where we listen to the divine. I mean, that is the spirit. That is the spirit of our life.
I wrote that down. Rackaroo. I love that word.
It never stops. It's just going to be continuous.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love it.
As soon as one thing gets resolved, another bunch of rackaroo is going to start up. But
That's
I
so true,
I
teZa.
I think God really, like, he or she or it, I think of God in a
The
cosmic
birther. Yeah, me too. Yeah.
cosmic way. I mean, actually, that painting behind you, the spiral in the universe, that's how I feel the
That's why
divine.
I love this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Spiral is a big thing in my life. It's one
Yeah.
of my motifs, something that just means so much. Um, but it has no gender, it doesn't, I believe that we have anthropomorphized the divine in whatever way people need so that they can relate to it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in the Bible, when God exposed himself, it was, that time before Jesus, it was in the Old Testament. I think it was Moses. God
Oh,
exposed himself. It was like, it's like people can't take that kind of magnificence. So he brought it down to a burning bush.
mhm,
Okay, let's burn that bush then,
mhm.
instead of like this whole huge cosmic thing. And then however it is that we can relate to the spirit is great. It's perfect.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
perfect for us.
Yes.
And some people do relate to the spirit through nature. and that's okay, you know? It doesn't do yeah, I mean, like, people who wanna put labels on them, like calling them pagans, like, that doesn't help the conversation very
No,
much, really.
not at all. Yeah.
And, I love going to, other countries, and I was in Iceland, a couple years ago, and it was explained to me that the whole country is going back to its pagan roots, and that is because of all the scandals that have happened because of this sexual power that, you know,
Yes.
is unfortunately very public these days, that leaders choose to sometimes take over their followers. And that's very common, not just in Catholicism, in all walks of life. So there's a connection between
Always. Yeah.
sexuality and spirituality. They are very connected.
Mhm, mhm. And the conversations that we need to have, even, my big love because of where what I do working here at Alzheimer's Services of the East Bay is also helping caregivers to make that shift because the language around caregiving and because of where it falls in the political paradigm, funding, aging, the
Mhm,
ageism language around that, and our fear of death and dying is all of those things woo, woo, woo,
mhm,
create this vortex of drama that makes people feel like they have lost, they're losing, and yes, their loved one has a diagnosis where memory is being extracted basically,
mhm.
but at the end of the day they're also very much alive and very much able to communicate love and communicate all these different things. So if we just focus on their loss
Mhm.
and not on this vital human being that's still alive and able to give, just because they got a diagnosis of dementia and Alzheimer's, we're missing out on a very special person, a very special spirit, and then we kill them off by saying, well, they can't do this and they can't do that. I mean, what are you talking about? What? How do you know?
Wow, what a great, wonderful soul you are to be involved in that world and to bring that message. That's so important. I heartily agree, and I commend you. And it's challenging, you know, for people to be surrounded by pain. You know, a normal person says, "No, no, I don't want any more pain." Well, pain doesn't necessarily have to be awful. It can, you know, the fact that somebody has a diagnosis, it could be an opportunity, not just for that person who has the diagnosis, but for all people around them. And
Yes,
and what a service that person is doing who has the diagnosis, where we get to practice being more human, more compassionate, and more loving up
yeah,
to the very last instance. Like, I had a friend who recently just passed because of cancer, and 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 it was a gift that he brought to me. I don't know how many other people around him, because his milieu basically were sports and TV and drinking. And so, but that's, you know, maybe somebody else felt it, but I just felt the connection that this is an opportunity to give him this deep love that he kind of shunned the rest of his life. It was only because he was getting closer to his calling of leaving the body that he was open and receptive to receiving this love that a lot of people are so scared about.
hmm,
They see the eyes and they see the heart open and they go, "Whoa,
I know.
I'm ready for that." You know? But the people who are open for that, we can give more and more and more, and that sounds like a wonderful thing that you're doing. Very wonderful.
It is something that a journey that I got on,
Mm.
that I didn't expect to be on this long. I've now been an employee of this nonprofit for 27 years, not in
Mhm.
this role, but in a variety of roles. And once I realized this was my passion, this was my purpose, but also where I could do the most good in the world, not just in this work setting, but it it's open portals
Mm-hmm.
other places and things. So teZa, it's been a journey, just like you've got, and thank you for sharing In the Eye. I'm gonna get that book because I'm mentoring some young adults now that I'm trying to figure out how to be the best light I can be for them, because some of their questions are very profound, and they're making me think about my
Mm-hmm.
contribution to, I don't know, the legacy, I guess the legacy we leave them, and the legacy of this, the female energy, the all of this
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And
Yeah.
how so I will get that. But before we run out of time, tell us about your book, The Bridge Tender.
Right. Well, I
And
have it.
and I learned a little bit about it, and it's about an environmental state of the world. Oh, there it is,
There
the
it
Bridge
is.
Tender.
I don't know if it shows up backwards or right
No,
side.
it's showing right.
But
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
so the bridge tender, this bridge is magic. This is a novel, first of all.
Okay.
There are some things that you cannot explain in real language. You have to you have to embrace the flights of fancy, just like this painting. This is not a real picture of human beings in their golden essence, their higher nature. It's my it's my ability to imagine. So, writing a novel after having published 3 nonfiction books, which are also, I mean, that's my goal is to make life more magical, because this real world here needs more magic. And by magic, I don't mean, the guy up on the stage pulling a rabbit out of a hat. I just mean to see love everywhere. That's magic. But the story is about a very dark situation that becomes very transformed through a crisis that we all can relate to, because it's a historical crisis that happens, and I don't want to give it away too much, but it's a story that anybody can relate to, but especially women, because one of the major characters in the book is the mother of the universe
Mhm.
herself.
All
And
right.
that's a majestic thought, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
I
when
love
I
it. I love it.
when I pray to God, I usually say Mother, Father, God. I mean, the essence of the divine is not just the old patriarchal guy, the guy with the whiskers and reaching out for Michelangelo's Adam.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's pretty
It's
dark.
it's it's something much bigger. It's
Right,
really beyond gender,
right.
but the fact that we are in such a crucial stage right now, in this point, in this time, in the 21st century, right now, we need to have more of the female nurturing, spiritualizing. Let's get back to the roots of nurturing. And that's why I chose to have the mother of the universe be such a big, strong influence in this magical exploration. And of course, it has a lot to do with the environment, bringing people's awareness that every thought we have counts. And so if we send out these seeds, call them thought seeds, and if we keep our thoughts positive and uplifted, that is going to generate this enormous wave of creative energy. Because every action, before we grab an apple, our brain is thinking, apple,
Yep.
and it begins with a thought. So every thought we have counts.
Yep.
And and it's really about keeping our thoughts focused on the solutions, which are going to be creative.
Yep.
And every single person alive today is a potential genius coming up with more and more solutions.
Mhm.
Yes, and so I think it's a very important book. I feel so proud to have birthed this. It's like I did not have any biological children. I helped my husband raise his, and they were very early in life when we got married, and they're now 40 and 37. So
Oh,
I am a mother, but stepmom. I call it
wow.
angel mom, not stepmom. And that's another book I wrote. That's Zen Love.
Oh,
But
wow.
this book, yeah, Zen Love is about being angel mom.
Oh,
And that's a really interesting story. And it's pretty magical the way I portray it. But this bridge tender, because it's magical, it's flights of fancy based upon historical events. I just feel this is the literary gift that I wanted to give the world.
Oh, wow.
And it's got some really great illustrations in it too, because of
Are
course
they your, are they your?
yes,
Oh,
yes, I
yay.
every book I publish has illustrations of my own in them,
Wow.
and they help illuminate the story.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So can the book be purchased
Oh,
online?
yeah, yeah. Everything's on Amazon.
Okay.
Everything is at my main website, teZalord.com. That's one Z,
Okay.
TEZA, with the auspicious last name of Lord. Yeah.
I love it though. I love it. So Teza Lord. I love that name also. I was looking it up and just found it just delightful. And then I love, before I let Teza go, because this is something that I found out about her when I saw the word civitas. And
Civitas.
civitas, yeah. And that is Latin for civic, social, community. And I thought, whoa, that is so cool. So, what made you begin to use that sort of banner for your,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I am Civitas. I modeled for this incredible monumental tribute to the goddess of civilization. That's how the artist Audrey Flack, who created it, designed it. And I actually was the physical model and in younger years. And so when I started realizing that the statue was being used to portray different ways of honoring civilization, whether it's education or nurturing,
Mhm.
or the food we eat and the smart choices that we have about economics. Those are all ways that we can influence spiritually our
Right.
civilization. Well, there are four gigantic statues in Rock Hill, South Carolina, and I am Civitas. I am the person who modeled for her, and it's just an interesting thing because I have kind of merged into the idea of being this representative of where our civilization can go to
Yeah.
if we keep focused on the positive and uplifting potential, not all the roo.
Great. That's my new word. I love that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, every time I use it, I'm gonna just be filled with this experience. Thank you
I,
so
I
much.
have to tell you where that came from because I ripped it off from a woman who's no longer on the planet. Her name was Oshana, and she was a shamanic Navajo Indian who was also a psychotherapist, but she's adhered to the old tribal ways of working with shamanic rituals. And she explained that we are all crystals, we are all water, mostly water,
Mhm.
and our bodies vibrate at a higher level than other creatures, like insects, for instance, because we have so much water. And so she said you must always you really focus on the higher vibration rather than the roo. That's where it came from, Oshana.
Ocean. I love it. I love it. Oh man, friends, life is a sacred journey is just one has been so blessed by the universe that we have had the opportunity to have these incredible conversations with people from all over the world. And I want to thank you for joining us every Friday morning at 8 a.m. But this morning, I hope that you have been inspired, that you have the portals of your heart have been opened up. Teza Lord has joined us this morning, and I know I've got a paper full of gems written down that she has imparted upon me. So, see love everywhere was one thing that she said. Every thought is a seed. That's big, man. So that every thought is a seed, meaning every negative thought, you're planting something that's going to strangle the flowers. Whoa,
Ah,
about that. Okay.
yeah.
She also, animals give inspiration. Why you know how I feel about the animals. I love every animal. Every animal. When I drive by roadkill, guys, I always say,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
bless you, because that life meant something to the ecosystem, and now it's no longer exists. Now, yeah, I don't go as far as stopping my car and getting it and going and burying it in my backyard, but I do make sure that I say something about the existence of that raccoon or that squirrel or whatever.
Good for
Life.
you.
We're
Yes.
all on this planet together.
Yeah.
And the other is the racka-rackaroo, loving that. And the other that she said, that adversity breeds innovation. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those are all teZa Lord pearls of wisdom that she just dropped in this last 45, 50 minutes with Life is a Sacred Journey. I hope you picked up on them and you wrote them down, and that they manifest themselves in you however you need it at this moment. You
I'd
know,
like to add one more thing, if I
yeah,
may.
please.
My motto, everybody should remember this and use it as a mantra. Love is the weapon of mass illumination.
Ooh, love
Yeah.
is the weapon,
Weapon of mass illumination.
mass illumination. And that is so true. Oh, all right. teZa Lord has a couple of books that I know I'm going to add to my table. You know how I am. I'm reading like 3 or 4 books at the same time. But one of them it's fiction, but it's The Bridge Tender. Ooh.
This is my manifesto. I don't know if you can see that. You see?
Yeah, we are one.
We are one. That's my manifesto.
Oh, I have to get that too.
And they, yeah, I have 5 books. It's really
Okay.
a great, these are my 5 babies. And the one that's about Angel Mom is about a journey of, just a delightful journey of love and a family, 3 generations.
Then Love, and
Yeah.
that's about Angel Mom, three
About it.
generations, Angel Moms. I love that terminology in itself.
Angel Mom, we all are, who take care
Yep,
of children.
yep. And
Mhm.
share them. That's the thing about books. I'm beginning to realize I have multiple copies of books because I buy them that way so that I can give them away when
Good.
I feel the spirit move that somebody would enjoy it as I have. So buy a couple and then give one away, and leave one on a plane or at an airport for someone to pick up and read. I've done that a couple of times on purpose. People have said, "Oh, you left your
Yeah.
book." I said, "No, I left it for someone else, for whoever." And somebody will pick it up and read it. That's just the thing about
Yeah.
books, as they
I,
call us.
I love to tack little paintings on trees when I go camping for the squirrels and the blue jays and the raccoons and maybe another camper who comes.
I love that.
Yeah, and I also make
I
audio
love
books.
that.
Yeah, I know the squirrels like art.
Yeah.
And all my books, I make my own audio books, and that's a lot of fun too.
Oh, okay. So the
Yeah,
audio book. So when you're in the car, if you're a commuter like me, then you can also do the audio book, which is, I love them, because when
yeah.
I travel around, that's what I do. I don't listen to the news. It's too
And I
frustrating.
will gift you a free audiobook because right now Amazon gifts us authors. So if I would like to send one to you, and if
Oh,
anybody's listening, if they really want an audiobook, write me and
yeah, right,
yeah,
teZa. Yeah, right, teZa Lord. And let her know where you heard her on Life is a Sacred Journey. Hit the share button, subscribe, do all those wonderful things. And we're gonna let you go before
hey,
gonna
I don't
I'm
want
gonna sign I'm
to
gonna sign off
go.
on,
Okay.
and then you stay for a second, teZa. All right,
Okay.
folks.
Much love, everybody.
Yes, much love. Have a good weekend. And if you're a person out there right now who is feeling doom and gloom, and it's just overwhelming, and you feel that suicide, or you just need to talk to somebody, dial 988. Dial that number. There are great, 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 great people on the other end of that line, on the other side of that text or email, that will support you through this time. Your life matters. And yes, the world, yes, it does make a difference that you're here. And so let us help you so that you can make it to that other second, that other moment. 988 is the number for that. Also, go out and hug a tree. You know how I feel about trees. Last week, I hugged a beautiful tree and I couldn't let it go. It was calling me. I could feel it. So go hug a tree, pet a cat, pet a dog. You know how I feel about the four-legged animals.
Mhm.
Say hello to any animal that crosses your path and be willing to live in the magic. Because as teZa Lord says, the magic is love. So be willing to let go and do that. It's okay. There's those of us that will reach our hand out and say, we're here to help you balance if you feel like you're teetering on a little wobbly. But love is the way, friends. Have a good weekend. Peace, 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 peace.
Peace, peace.